Good everyone, and welcome to today's video. And today it is actually, well, today's videos are going to be a double upload. We're going to have two Spade impressions for you today. First of all, we're starting out with an oldie, but a goldie, the F-82 Twin Mustang. I've had this thing on the works for quite some time, but to be honest, I just haven't been asked. And at one point, I swear the repair cost was like 26k, so I just thought, sod that, not losing my lions, so I'll wait for its repair cost to go down. And well, whilst it's at 13k, it's not great, but it still does the job just nicely. So the F-82 Twin Mustang was a attempt to basically make a, shall we say, super long-range escort fighter. This thing was escorting B-29s and things like that. Obviously, they were meant to fly all the way there. There were two pilots, so if one needed to sleep, the other one could take over. Things like that. It was a very effective plane for its time, so to speak. I don't think these things scored many air kills. I know they scored a couple against Yak 9s, but once MiG-15 started joining the party, these things were quickly seen out of service, let's just say. Which is a shame because, well, as you can see underneath the aircraft, we have the 850 caliber machine gun pod, which I'll go over that in a minute because that thing's special. But stock, you get six 12.7mm M3 Browning machine guns. Now, those of you Sabre pilots out there are going to love this thing because well, you get the same armament as the Sabre at a lower BR. And you also get 600 more rounds, so screw you Sabre pilots, basically. But it gets better. Um, you also get the gun pod, which you can see there, which has 8 of them with 400 rounds apiece. Now, with a fire rate of 1200 rounds a minute, you're not going to get much in the terms of, well, fire. Like, I think the total firing time is about 15 to 20 seconds. I haven't really tested it. But, yeah, this thing drains through its ammo quicker than what you think. There are two belt recommendations that I recommend you try. I'll go over the other ordnance options that you can use and things like that. But I either recommend tracers or stealth. Tracers because drop enemies FPS, and stealth to be a dickhead. There's another way of putting it. Stealth to be a dickhead. They won't see 14 guns firing, and they won't expect, well, this sheer amount of firepower. But tracers is more for those who like to see the meme beam or the death laser, as some people call it, whilst I was spading this thing. But this flight I'm going to show you almost got the Spade done. I was about 600 RP short on a fuselage repair, which is what I was finishing off. When I came back to it, I had, gotta remember now, brain's ticking. I had this up, well, I had these three upgrades. I had the gun pod. I had all the engine mods done, um, except for compressor. I didn't have cover done, and I didn't have the rockets or the new 12 MG. So technically, it's a half Spade, but even so, I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. Obviously, we did have some shit along the way, but you always get that. Sorry, my throat's feeling a bit sore this morning. So in terms of stats, 61 air kills, 68 or 16 deaths, 84 ground targets, and 8 landing craft. Pretty good result. Obviously, other ordnance options you can carry are two 500-pound bombs, two 1,000-pound bombs, two 2,000-pound bombs, which Dave is going to love, and 10 Hitchfire rockets, which are positioned outboard of the engines. I'll quickly show the two 2000s because, let's be real, you hit a tank with just one of these, it's going to blow up nicely. But personally, keep the gun pod on. You don't need anything else. If you do need to change it out for a bomb or something, do that. But otherwise, just keep the mean beam on, honestly. But performance-wise, this thing is very, very fast. It will maintain around about 400 miles an hour at most altitudes. In this battle, I actually hunt down a Ju-288, level retard, like level 18, I think he was, and he had a 288. Of course, he nearly got me because retardation, but I got him instead. A Spitfire jumps in to try and take the kill, but to be honest, I said he could have it anyway. And yeah, the 288 eventually crashes, getting me my second ever ace in this thing. But obviously the 50 cals also work very well against pillboxes, so if you do want to use this thing as a pillbox hunter to win a game, go right ahead because the 14 guns will do that. Obviously, if you're going to do that, low ground targets. Anyway, I've blubbered on a bit too much, so let's get into the actual battle that got me to nearly the Spade. Sadly though, I did have to do another flight, obviously, but I reckon if I hadn't spent my time popping artillery and AAA and pop pillboxes, I could have potentially got the Spade done in this game, but whatever. I don't care. I enjoyed the plane. That's all I care about. You may have seen in the hangar, there was the AD-2 Skyraider. That is going to be the second Spade impressions for today. Next aircraft I'm working on is the P-38L. It's either going to be the P-38L or the AD-4 Skyraider, which I need to start. But the cockpit, obviously, even if you lose the left-hand pilot, you still sit in the left-hand pilot seat, which doesn't make any sense. So that means if you get pilot sniped on one of your pilots, it's very hard to pilot snipe an F-82. I've never done it personally, but if you're honestly going out your way to pilot snipe an F-82, you're wasting your time. Just shoot the tail. The tail is very fragile on this thing. Did have a weird instance last night when I was spading it, which got the Spade done. When a G55S put a single meaningless shot into the elevator, which blew both the rudders off, both the elevators off, and blew basically all the flaps off, which makes no sense, but hey ho, guys have got to help the retards, aren't they? Of course, the G55S has been removed from the shop now, so that'll be interesting to see. But yeah, this battle starts off relatively slow. Obviously, I am climbing at about 20 degrees. Personally, when you're stuck, you're gonna want... And honestly, these engines are too loud for me to hear anything, so... That's better. You are gonna want to climb at 15 degrees stuck, 20 degrees upgraded. There is another Twin Mustang pilot on my team who is climbing very aggressively with his pod on. Yeah, he's not gonna be much. He's gonna bait 3 enemy fighters for me, so keep an eye out for him. Now, I was a bit suspicious about the Spitfire because of his flight style. I thought he was trying to follow me, pull up for a potential shot on me. I wasn't really sure. Because you can see his flight style is very weird. And I was getting very cautious about him. As you can imagine, I mean, I have been team killed a few times recently, and I like to keep nice and situationally aware, so I was watching this guy like a hawk. But as we got up above 14,000 feet, I had no fear. Because I knew if he was going to do anything, I'd just outrun him. This thing is honestly one of the fastest planes I've flown in this BR. It's not 288 level, but it can keep up with an A288. There's no Gaijin. Can you do us a favor and freaking buff this thing, well, up this thing's BR? Like seriously, these little bastards are hard to catch, and this is going to be the guy who we have a little trouble with. He's obviously got 2 Satans on board. Okay, so climb rate on this thing's about 3,500 feet a minute. Obviously, you get air spawn, which really helps. You're powered by 2 Allison engines, which I don't get how that makes sense, because I'm sure there'd be Merlins, but whatever. But either way, these things are absolute powerhouses. They honestly get this thing into the sky very well. But the battle's going to start off nice and slowly, and well, I'm just going to skip to more of the battle, shall we say. And there is actually an enemy player in a German-captured Tempest Mark V, which you can see on there, Hardings. And Blackburn 3, I'm going to have a nice discussion with him after what happens. I told Dave about this battle, he absolutely bloody loved it. So obviously I'm looking around, obviously I've spotted the 288, so I know there's 288s in the game. And you can see here the speed is just slowly increasing. There's a guy on my team complaining about German 20 mils. He thinks his 50 cals should one-shot a G55S, whilst the G55S should be allowed to one-shot him. But, sorry mate, it's not how it works. And now we're coming up to the bit that made me absolute die laughing. Diving in, obviously, you've got to watch your elevator. Your elevator is very stiff. It is honestly one of the stiffest elevators I've ever encountered. So if you can avoid going over 420 miles an hour in a dive, which is about 700 kilometers an hour or something like that, please do. Obviously I'm watching the throttle and I decided, you know what, fuck it, plant the throttle. At this point, I push the engines up to full power, I'm whipping the bollocks off this thing, and you can see the speed, we're doing nearly 500 miles an hour. And obviously that is true airspeed, so it's not indicated airspeed. You can see here, these three guys are all over this F-82, and I'm like, right, I've got to help him, we're doing nearly 500. First kill, Do 335. Second kill, I go for the Dora. And third kill, Tempest. 3 idiots gone just like that. Thank you very much, Mr. F-82. You may have lost your life, mate. I wasn't fast enough, but thank you very much for that. That was some great baiting there on your part. I just came in, shredded all 3 of them with a gun pod, and that was simply amazing. Blackburn 3 is not a sore loser about it though. I'm fairly certain the other 2 pilots did feel a bit bad, but to be honest, they shouldn't have been tailgating a single F-82, because you never know when a second's going to jump out of the clouds at you. But yeah, Blackburn 3, nice pilot. Anyway, so, now that those 3 Muppets are dealt with, the tailgaters. I don't like tailgaters in real life either, on like the roads and all that, because I've been learning to drive and all that. Got my theory test soon, so that'll be fun. But then you have to do your practical, which is going to be fun, but whatever. And I put in chat, I run stealth to catch players off guard with a winky face, because the thing is that I just prefer stealth. And this game literally almost got this thing done. I was about 605 RP short, which was a real shame. I really wanted to get this thing done in this one game. I was hoping for it to be done. And to be honest, if I still had my premium account running, I'd probably done that, but I ran out a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, at this point we've got one of the, well, 2 of the 3 remaining enemy fighters here. We've got BF-19K4 and a G55S. Now, for some reason, both of these lot were ground pounding, which is strange. I mean, you'd thought an F-82 on 3 kills will come and hunt your ass, surely. But these 2 aren't going to think. So at this point I thought, right, if I dive on a 109, you'll probably die anyway, so it'll get my speed up. Sure enough, he does go down. And I'm thinking, right, I don't want this G55S to escape. I'm going to keep the throttles up, see if we can gain on him. He turns for some bloody reason. I start spraying the guns, obviously. I'm not 100% used to stealth. I get a nice crit on his tail section. Not the elevator, just the tail section itself. He pulls into the vertical to try and get one of the Spitfires. And well, you regret that life decision. 4th kill. He just cut that G55S apart. And well, I don't think he spent his money wisely, clearly judging by his lack of brain cells. If he thought going into a climbing head-on against an F-82, which he didn't even have a shot at, was a smart idea. So at this point, I am actually considering either ground targets or going after the last 3 enemy planes. But I decide, since I'm spading, and there's nothing for me to kill so far, I'll spray just the 6 machine guns, and leave the gun pod just in case. That's one thing to do. I do have separate keyboard binds for the 6 machine guns, and the gun pod is controlled purely by the mouse. So I can fire the 6 machine guns in the central wing and not have to worry about me running out of ammunition on the gun pod. Because there's no point me spraying 14 guns on a single artillery piece when I can just spray 6, so that's how I see it. So at this point, obviously, we've got 5 ground targets, we've done ourselves nicely. And now we have to try and locate the last 2 enemy players. Obviously, one of them's up there in a high call 177, which I need to start spading at some point. I've recently been going down the American bomber line to get those unlocked. I've unlocked the B-17G, almost unlocked the B-24 Liberator. I've unlocked the F-82 Skyraider, and obviously I've been spading planes, and I'm going to work on some tanks soon as well. 2 more ground targets there. Missed that AA gun, unfortunately. I was going to hope to get that. But little advice: when you're spading this thing, put the boosters on. Honestly, the new boosters is absolutely insane for this aircraft. You can actually roll with a 190, it feels like. Your elevator won't follow him, but your roll rate surely will. So at this point, you may remember our old friend, Warbird Slayer. He's obviously just flying away at the moment. And you can see he's already doing 300 miles an hour. Just like, wow. To think this thing's carrying 2 Satans and it's doing that speed. But of course, if there's one thing he's not outrunning, it's an F-82 on the deck. Even lunging a pod. You can see here, 356, 314. I am gaining on him. However, I don't like engaging 288s. That 20mm. I believe it's got like 60-degree coverage on the back. And it is absolutely mental that this thing can just outrun anything it sees, and if it can't outrun it, it'll just shoot it down with tail guns. It's a bit of a broken premium in my opinion. But hey, to be fair, Germany did need some more premiums, and I'm being sarcastic there, they didn't. They have plenty of high-tech premiums. And not only that, why wouldn't you fly this? The Grief is well, actually better defensively armed. Thinking about it, you don't have the lower turrets, I don't think. So at this point, I give the pilot a chance here. I say to him in chat, mate, you ain't outrunning me. I'll give you a chance to bail. I wouldn't care if he didn't bail, and I wouldn't care if he did. Because at the end of the day, the 177's getting intercepted as we speak, so... You can see here, 360, and he's going to drain a lot of speed in his maneuvers. Obviously, that 20mm is bloody lethal. He also has the lower turrets, he has the upper turrets, and you can see what kind of defensive firepower I have to put up with here. Obviously, my main focus is that 20mm. And I was getting very worried. I was obviously just maneuvering and things like that, but this guy was briefly outrunning me because obviously I'm doing turns to try and avoid these 20mm and the 13s. Because the F-82 is rather fragile to its engines and tail. So I'm just slowly dodging underneath his tracer fire. I'm not doing aggressive maneuvers, you don't need to. But that thing just has so much speed, good defensive armament, good bomb load, like... I can see why James opens his bloody wallet for it, but then again he opens his wallet for any German premium, let's be real. But at this point my fuel level is pretty good. I'm on about 15 minutes, well like 16 minutes of fuel left. The 177 has just been shot down. At this point, I start rattling the guns off, or the gun pod anyway. And some vital pieces fly off his 288. I've blown off one of his rudders, and I've damaged the left wing quite severely, as well as damaged the left engine. He's also suffering a bit of a fuel leak. But luckily, remember that Spitfire from earlier who I had theories about? He's going to come in and help. He's in a Griffin Spitfire. The 288 is trying to outrun him. I'm completely dry of ammunition at this point. I don't get why I'd go behind a 288, but even so. And at this point, the 288 is battered and bruised. He isn't outrunning this Griffin, no matter how hard he tries. But seriously though, guys, you need to increase this thing's BR. It's just too low. 5.7 to maybe even 6 would suit this thing. Because, I mean, it's just too fucking fast. But you can see here, the 288 pilot's in his gunner view. And he just wasn't paying attention. And that was my ace match. And that is that. So not a bad game, as I usually say. That almost got the plane done, as I've mentioned. But to be honest, coming back to this thing was a heck of a lot of fun. And now I've got to work on the P38J. Well, no, not J. I did the J, but that was before I started YouTube. I've also got to do the P38L. Got to do what else for America? I know I've got to start on the AD-4, and I've got to start some of the well, Spade, the B-17E. I've already started flying it way back in the day. Other nations are just high tier shit, so I'll slowly work on that. But we'll just see how we do. Anyway, I'll let you guys off. I hope you enjoyed today's video on the 80, well not the 82, that's coming later. The F-82 Twin Mustang. Very fun plane. If you haven't spaded this thing, it is a lot of fun. Having 14 guns is just pure overkill, but to be honest, I don't care. I just love shredding planes with 14 guns. It's why I loved the A-26 B-50 Invader. Anyway, I'll catch you all on the next one, which will be the AD-2 Spade impressions. See you then.